Authorities recover more than 30 bodies from the Potomac River after a passenger plane and a military helicopter collided in Washington, D.C. in the United States. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that at least 10 citizens were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a house in Tamun in the northern occupied West Bank. And the Israeli occupation forces cut roads, demolished houses and attacked civilians in villages south of the Lebanese border. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Authorities recover more than 30 bodies from the Potomac River after a passenger plane and a military helicopter collided in Washington, D.C. in the United States. With no reports of survivors, search and rescue teams continue to work to recover the bodies of 64 passengers and crew from the plane and 3 from the helicopter. A team of divers has recovered 2 black box recorders from the crash site, which show that the operators asked the helicopter if the plane was in sight before the crash, but did not receive an answer. The American Airlines plane was on a domestic flight between Wichita and Washington, D.C. when it crashed and landed at the Reagan International Airport. On Thursday morning, President Donald Trump confirmed that there were no survivors of the plane crash and held a minute's silence for the victims.
A moment of silence for the work has now shifted to a recovery mission. Sadly, there are no survivors. This was a dark and excruciating night in our nation's capital and in our nation's history, and a tragedy of terrible proportions. As one nation, we grieve for every precious soul that has been taken from us so suddenly, and we are a country of really, we are in mourning.
The Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi condemned the presence of thousands of Rwandan soldiers who support the M23 offensive in the west of the nation.
The presence of thousands of Rwandan soldiers on our land, their political, logistical and military support to their M23 puppets, as well as their involvement in the illegal exploitation of our natural resources, are leading us directly to an escalation with unforeseeable consequences, endangering the entire Great Lakes region.
In this context, the Congolese head of state condemned the international community's inaction as the Eastern Region's sovereignty is being violated.
Their silence and inaction, witnessing the Kigali regime's barbarism and atrocities, are an affront to our country and to the universal values of justice and peace. The Congolese people takes note of this passivity approaching complicity.
And now we have a short break coming up. First, remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that at least 10 citizens were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a house in Tamun in the northern occupied West Bank. According to local media, 10 deaths have been confirmed, although it is believed that the number could be higher. The Israeli army confirmed the drone strike, claiming it targeted an alleged armed cell. In response, the Palestinian resistance movement condemned the operation in Tamun and the ongoing crimes of the occupation in the West Bank. In Palestine, the resistance fights Tel Aviv's aggression against the West Bank, inflicting casualties on the Israeli army. Palestinian resistance fighters engaged in fierce clashes with the occupation on several axes in Jenin and Tulkarem in the northern West Bank. According to the Arab Defense Forces, Israeli military vehicles were attacked with machine guns and explosive devices. It should be noted that the Israeli occupation forces restricted the access of ambulances and demolished and burned houses in the West Bank, killing at least 18 Palestinians, injuring dozens and displacing people. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates rang alarm bells on the fact that the Knesset passed a bill to allow Israeli settlers to purchase Palestinian lands in the occupied West Bank. The ministry considered that the measure represents a deepening of the invasion on the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and the application of Israeli laws in the occupied Palestinian territory in flagrant violation of international law and disregard for international legitimacy and its resolutions, as well as the Geneva Conventions and signed agreements. The Israeli bill further constitutes a new episode in the plans of genocide, displacement and annexation, with the target of wiping Palestinians off the face of the earth. Lately, the Hamas Palestinian resistance movement released some hostages as part of the hostage for prisoners swap. Our collaborator Huda Hegazi provides us more details.
I am right now at the Khan Yunis Governorate, southern Gaza Strip, right in front of the house of the Hamas leader. Right here, the hostages for prisoner swap will be held by the military wing of Al-Qassam brigades belonging to the Hamas movement, in cooperation with Islamic Jihad of Al-Quds brigades. Right now, as we can see, the hostages for prisoner swap will be conducted here, and it has started with a military parade on the side of the combatants of the Hamas Palestinian resistance movement. And this military parade is being thrown for showing the world, and mostly for showing the Israeli regime, that the resistance continues to have that strength and power that the occupation regime during the genocidal war didn't manage to defeat the Palestinian resistance, most of all the Hamas movement. Its combatants, in addition to the Islamic Jihad, as we can see right now, the International Red Cross cars are heading for the Hamas leader's house, where the hostages will be released and handed over to authorities, so they can transfer them to the Kerem Shalom border crossing, and there they be released. We have to say that from here, from the Khan Yunis area, the released hostage is Arbil Yehud and the 80-year-old senior. So here they will release two hostages, as they had already released the rest at the northern area, exactly at the Jabalia refugee camp. The 19-year-old youngster and the 5 Thai hostages, as we can see right now, cars are arriving in which Israeli hostages are inside. We are referring that here in those cars the hostage are Bill Jehud and the 80-year-old senior are inside the cars. And as we can see, the crowd, so many people gather here in this place to conduct the hostages for prisoners swap. This can be considered a historical act in which the Palestinian resistance is releasing the Israeli hostages, so it is proving that the resistance is the only one having the first and last word, and not the Israeli regime.
The Israeli occupation forces cut roads, demolished houses and attacked civilians in villages south of the Lebanese border. The Tel Aviv occupation has once again violated the ceasefire agreement by carrying out a bulldozer operation in the border town of Al-Daira. An Israeli drone also dropped a bomb near a family inspecting their home on the outskirts of the village of teleSUR. In this context, since the ceasefire came into force on November 27th, Israel has violated the ceasefire more than 1,300 times without being condemned by the monitoring mechanisms that are supposed to ensure compliance with what has already been agreed. Syrian de facto terrorist government disbanded the People's Assembly as well as other national and political institutions and laws. De facto authorities announced Wednesday the abrogation of the constitution, including all the associated amendments. Likewise, they unfolded dismissing the People's Assembly, which had been set during the Bashar al-Assad's government. In addition, they disbanded the committees derived from that entity. They further informed that a temporary legislative council will be created for the transitional stage until a permanent constitution be enacted. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, that you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Ecuador's election campaign continues amid a security crisis and political tensions between President Daniel Noboa and Vice President Veronica Abad. A few days before the elections, the 17 candidates for the presidency of the country intensified their campaign events in different regions to present their proposals. Among the most recurrent problems and solutions addressed by the candidates, the security of the citizens and the increase in the national employment rate stand out. Ecuador is facing a serious security crisis due to the presence of criminal groups linked to drug trafficking, a situation that affects daily life and the country's economy. Panamanian Workers' Union announced demonstrations on Thursday to reject the approval of a bill on the Social Security Fund. The workers denounced that the law promoted by the executive aims to hand over the funds to the banks and the pension administrators, an intention that they consider unacceptable. In this sense, the representatives of the National Confederation of Independent Trade Union Unity pointed out that they had been summoned to a meeting of the Health Commission of the legislature without taking into account their proposals for amendments to the initiative presented by the government. Days before the first national public consultation of 2025, teleSUR visited different communes to know the transformations that their inhabitants have carried out through this democratic and participative initiative. Belén de los Santos with more details from El Panal 2021 commune.
On Sunday, February 2nd, the communes and communal circuits of Venezuela will go to the polls. Instead of electing representatives, Venezuelans will be able to directly decide which community projects will be financed in their territories. This is the third national public consultation, another chapter in the construction of Bolivarian participative and protagonist democracy. In the El Panal 2021 commune, located in the iconic 23 de Enero parish in Caracas, this new instance of popular organization is eagerly awaited.
With lots of joy, with much enthusiasm, in recent days we held an assembly with our 9 communities, where they postulated 6 projects ranging from repairs to cultural spaces, fixing of leaks in our buildings, in our houses. We have tried to ensure that the reality of our communities is represented in this participation of the 2025 National Public Consultation.
The 2 previous national consultations held in 2024 have already left their mark in El Panal. At that time, the residents of the commune decided to finance the renovation of a staircase of vital importance for the daily life of the commune and the purchase of an ambulance to guarantee the transfers to health centers. These projects are now a reality.
The ambulance is for us, our first executed project. It was really an initiative of our people. It has changed the community a lot. Now from the people's power it is possible with a lot of effort to have our own means for the transfer and health care of our people.
And truly, many people, both here in Building 28 and in the whole community, have benefited from having the ambulance, people from here and from outside, so it is very good, it really is.
For the neighbors of El Panal, the consultation evidences the steps taken by the Bolivarian government to achieve a participative and protagonist democracy based on the strengthening of the popular power.
This relation between the government and the grassroots popular power is fundamental to really reorganize the whole of society, to put the people al mando, we would say in Spanish, in control of their own lives collectively, not individually, the people, the working class, in charge of their history, of their daily life, of their economy. That is basically what the commune is, and these councils are an exercise that helps us go in that direction.
The walls of El Panal speak of a history of struggle and a clear horizon for the future. The consolidation of popular power and the creative capacity of the inhabitants to transform their own territory. In this sense, the public consultations are a step farther on the road to this dignified and sovereign destiny.
Because here they do not come to do what others think is convenient for us, or what they think we need. We have a plan, and that work plan is called a concrete agenda of action, what we want in the short, medium and long term. On February 2nd, the people come out, they wake up very early to go out to vote, to choose. We get the results, and then this government, this communal government, this new government of the communes, goes out and carries out these projects, executes them financially and with its qualified labor force, because we have that force.
Belén de los Santos, Denise Arabí, for teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
And we are to Cuba, where the 6th International Conference on World Balance, under the name of With All and for the Youth of All, is being held in Havana. The conference brings together 900 delegates from 93 countries and 400 Cubans, and is a world meeting of plural and multidisciplinary ideas held every 2 years by UNESCO's José Martí Project for International Solidarity. During the opening session on Tuesday, the coordinator of the event's organizing committee stressed the urgency to build a better future as dreamed by Cuba's national hero, José Martí. He pointed out that Cuba does not organize these conferences to gain credits, but thinking about the human race, which is subjected to an international conflict, an arms race, and climate change and social injustices across the world. The conference will close on Friday, January 31st. In this context, Pedro Pablo Rodriguez, senior researcher at the Center for Martí's Studies, pointed out the importance of Martí's deeds in achieving Cuban independence when Spain and the United States were trying to colonize the country.
I always remember Fidel speaking to us about how terrible Martí must have felt following he had almost lost the expeditions to Cuba at the end of 1994 and the beginning of 1995, when the U.S. authorities seized all ships and weapons, and how Martí was crushed into it for a moment. His letters revealed so. In addition, those conversations with student masses evidenced that Fidel had almost learned it by heart. How Martí rose above all that, managed to solve everything and managed to push forward. Maybe not with all conditions he had planned, but with most of them, the War of Independence in 1895.
Also, the Brazilian Dominican friar and writer Frei Beto stated that both Martí and Fidel left an invaluable work in Cuba, as is the Cuban Revolution.
Me impresiona também o hecho de los dos ser ha hecho una cosa muy rara en la historia de las revoluciones.
I am also impressed by the fact that the two of them have done unique deeds in the history of revolutions. What did Lenin do? Well, not only Lenin, but many indeed. They united their intellectual lives to the armed struggles, to their commitment to go forward giving example, so ensuring their ideas get into practice. They took up arms to achieve the success of the liberation of Cuba from the Spanish colony and the liberation of Cuba from the U.S. empire. Why is it impressive? What impressed me the most is that Martí, by living just 42 years, he left a very vast and diversified work. The same goes for Fidel. Fidel lived twice as long as Martí. But he also left a priceless work, and perhaps the most priceless of all works is called the Cuban Revolution.
And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.